Hello and welcome to the Decibel Boost Podcast, the official music podcast of the website Surreal Resolution. I'm your host, Robert, who is absolutely on Cloud 9 right now. And with me, I have...
Hola! Ochichi ga dashi nanda yo.
And...
I'm the guy with a Daft Punk tattoo on his left arm.
Cool.
I believe that. I mean, we can't really disprove it. We've never seen his tattoos, if he has any.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're finally up to episode 12. The exact same number of episodes as choose your anime series of choice.
Woo.
Yeah, and to clarify the on Cloud 9, I don't know if y'all heard, but Castro finally went down. Just,
Ding dong, the witch is dead.
In a year of heartbreaking deaths, it's glad to see 2016 finally get it right for once.
Well, you know what they say about a broken clock.
Even that's right twice a day, but oh my god, how right it was this time. Just, c'est magnifique. The clanging of pots and pans in Little Havana was just, superb.
That must be how people in Britain felt when Margaret Thatcher died.
Pretty much, I bet. And then they all, went down to the Winchester, had a pint, and waited for other things to blow over.
As is the custom over there.
Yeah, boy.
Our only understanding of Britain comes from movies.
Yeah.
Or at least if you're me. So, let's get into the formalities. So, how have you gentlemen been since last time?
Oh, boy. I have the good, the bad, and the ugly to talk about.
Oh, boy.
Oh, shit.
First, the good. I beat Pokemon Sun. It was a really good game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I got a really fancy package all the way from across the pond. A really special fancy box of Escaflowne, which is just gorgeous and gigantic.
Very nice.
That's my good.
Nice.
The bad...
Uh-oh.
I'm kinda flat broke until payday.
Oh.
I have $3 to my name right now.
Damn.
Yeah. And now for the ugly.
Oh, no.
Thanksgiving night went south because I got not one, but two flat tires in my car. One regular tire and the spare tire.
Ah, damn.
Oh, fuck.
So I had to go home because we were at my boss's house for Thanksgiving dinner.
Ooh, interesting.
I had to go home in my boss's son's Jeep, which has no windows
Oh.
and it has no hood. It is a wireframe Jeep.
Oh god, Jeeps suck.
I don't know if either of you have been in a Jeep before, but going 60 miles an hour on a freeway at 7 o'clock at night at 50 degrees with no hood, no windows, and the cold wind just smacking your face every 3 seconds. That's not a pleasant experience, and I never want to relive that ever again.
Ouch.
Yeah,
But
I had to leave my car at a gas station, which thankfully was in a nice part of town, like an outlet mall and all that, overnight, before getting it towed to discount tire companies 5 minutes from my house, which thankfully the people there know me and my mother, and they're cool with us, so they put a tire on our car, and we're going to go there on payday and pay for that one and pay for another one.
Well, hope it goes smoothly for you.
Yeah. We always have to go on our word, even if it takes a while because we're broke and we have bills to pay.
So, anything exciting on your end, Mark?
Well, not much. I will say, my Thanksgiving been alright. It's been good. And also, I got two gifts, this past Friday. Somebody got me from Amazon. Somebody bought me, Afro Samurai and Black Lagoon.
Ooh,
Two shows
very nice.
Two shows I recommend because they're both awesome.
Yeah.
They got good music.
I co-sign on Black Lagoon. If you haven't seen Black Lagoon, y'all don't know what you're missing out on. Just, I'm doing
Good
the
shit.
Pacha thing right now, just with my hands.
Such a fantastic, gruesome cinematic opus of anime. It's like if Tarantino and John Woo and Robert Rodriguez came together to make an anime. It's fabulous.
Indeed.
Damn right.
Anyway, as for me, Thanksgiving came and went, and I think I actually ended up playing a sort of last-minute show on Friday after Thanksgiving at this neighborhood all the way up in the city of Pembroke Pines, which is like 45 minutes, I want to say, away from where I live. Yeah, we played this house show with a bunch of like underground, like, you know, indie bands and this one rap guy, I think. I actually wasn't sure what was up with his set. And we were like the last ones to go on, like the only screamo act, so to speak. And, you know, that was pretty fun, especially because they were someone was backlining their drum kit, so I didn't have to like drag all my shit, just like my cymbals and snare and pedals. Oh, and thank God it was one of those shows where I didn't have to backline the kit. Somehow I always end up getting roped into that shit. And so, that concludes the formalities. Now, before we get into... We're gonna switch things up this week, because the music and the news topics are a little light, so we're gonna have a little goodie for you after all that. But before we get into all that, we have to settle a bet. Now, as you may remember from a couple weeks ago, and as you may remember from Alex's sinister laugh, he and I debated on which of the following albums was going to end up charting number 1. Bruno Mars' 24K Magic or Metallica's Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Alex, you want to have the floor?
Yes, I would. I'll keep it short and sweet. For the upcoming issue of Billboard magazine and the latest Billboard 200 chart, which I believe would be December 12th, ranking at number 1, Metallica's Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Hey. Thank you and good night.
That means I owe Alex money.
Yes, which I desperately need right now.
Well, I can't say I have much, because for some reason my last paycheck hasn't gone through yet. God damn it. But, you know what, I'll give you $20. Maybe you can go to the Publix deli and buy yourself a chicken tender sub.
Wonderful, thank you.
Which, if any of you listening ever go to a Publix, you should eat. That shit will open a third eye.
Will it grant me a third arm?
What are you gonna do with a third arm? You gonna play guitar like Steve Vai or something?
You never know. All I
Wait,
know
is he the guy with the 3-neck guitar?
Yeah, he is.
Oh.
There's the dude in Cheap Trick who has like a 6-neck guitar.
Yeah. Very nice. So, with that bet settled, let's now segue into the new music that came out in the past week, which, again, slim pickings, but we found 5. First up, I remember, I want to say this was my freshman year of college. It was in the middle of finals week, and I had gone to a show, actually, that weekend, in a now defunct venue called Grand Central to see Cannibal Corpse. It's actually my second time seeing them live, because I saw them at Summer Slaughter over the summer of the same year. And one of the bands that they were touring with was a band I was never really all that familiar with, this Italian death metal act called Hour of Penance. And, you know, they were pretty impressive overall. It's typical, you know, really, like, heavy and technical as hell death metal, but, you know, pretty good. Turns out, Hour of Penance announced a new album dropping on January 27th called Cast the First Stone. Wait, wasn't that the name of the last Ion Dissonance release? Anyway, and they also dropped the first track off that album titled 21st Century Imperial Crusade. Now, if you've ever listened to this kind of music, again, you know what to expect. It is, in fact, very heavy as hell. There's a lot of intricate technique, you know, fast as hell guitars, and pummeling, you know, extremely precise, almost machine gun-like drum fills. And, of course, lyrically, it raised a little bit of a sort of stink with some people, because they were explaining the concept of the album. They were like, okay, I'm pretty sure they meant to communicate that they were very much anti-terrorism, but how they chose to frame it almost makes it sound like it's just explicitly anti-Islam, and not like a focused kind of anti-Islam, like more the blind aggression type, like, oh, just, you know, bomb all the funny brown people because I believe all of them may worship that God. Kinda. And you do kind of get the sense of that in the lyrics as well. I mean, like, okay, it's a good song, and I see to a point, because they're also kind of alluding to, like, the Crusades, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Those. But...
yeah. Well, if I may interject, listening to this reminded me so much of how much I miss Death Clock. Like, it has the same style of the vocals and the drum fills. It's just, when is Galacticon 2 coming out, Brendan Small? We need it.
We do indeed need it.
Something else that I noticed in the song is the vocals sounded really hushed. I don't know if because they were just buried in the mix, but it sounded kind of like a whispering kind of growl.
Yeah, there is kind of a weird airiness to it. Like this almost kind of feels like trying to listen to metal in the middle of like a really terrible storm, kind of.
Yeah. That sounds like how I would growl, which I can't do very well anymore because I put my voice out a couple times. It just comes out like a very airy whisper.
You poor Alex.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought the song, jammed pretty hard overall. And again, you can expect Cast the First Stone out January 27th. So, mark your calendars or personal assistants or whatever the hell you all use to keep track of this shit.
Sundials, baby.
And now, up next... as we all know, Thanksgiving was last week, which also means Black Friday followed. Although, weirdly enough, I didn't hear very many horror stories from Black Friday shoppers. Weird, right?
Mm.
But that didn't stop the good old boys in Psychostick, guys who wrote that one song about beer.
Yep.
And how it's good and stuff.
Now let's go drive a car.
From releasing their annual Christmas track. This is something they do, like, about every year or so. They even once had the holiday flesh-eating joy roller skate EP. I'm probably fudging that name terribly, but yeah, last year they released a song called their version of O Tannenbaum in the style of German metalers Rammstein. And this year they bring a song about the frustrations of holiday shopping called N.O.E.L, which is pretty much a straight cover of System of a Down's BYOB, just adapting the lyrics to, be about Black Friday shopping.
Right.
And of course, I love me some Psychostick. These guys are pretty much always funny as hell, and this is some, solid laugh-worthy parody right here.
Mm-hmm. I would like to make a declaration hereforth. N.O.E.L, Run the Jewels, A Christmas Fucking Miracle, the Nostalgia Critic and Rob Scott classic, I Fucking Love Christmas, and the ever-so-timeless Santa Claus on a Helicopter by Wing shall be, henceforth, the only Christmas songs anyone shall ever listen to, because they're the only good ones.
Don't forget about The Night Santa Went Crazy.
Oh yeah, that one too. Okay, so make it 5.
Yeah, and the thing I find most impressive about the song, weirdly, is that one of the things that I believe makes really good parody, if you've ever listened to Weird Al for an extended period of time, is not just to capture the style of the original song, but, putting in goofy lyrics, but also sort of making it, like, match with the original, like trying to phonetically match like the syllable sounds and sort of the rhyme scheme, which is something that N.O.E.L does surprisingly well. Like it lines up a lot very well with the original track.
Right. I was not expecting that to be a full-on BYOB cover when I saw that link. But yeah, I'm impressed with how well the structure and instrumentation was in comparison. It is, 1-to-1.
Damn right. Now all we need is a new album. We need that follow-up to Revenge of the Vengeance. And speaking of holiday tracks, and speaking of songs that aren't good, as you probably are aware, Gucci Mane has been keeping himself quite busy ever since he got released from jail this year. He's put out a handful of mixtapes and other releases and collaborations and stuff. In fact, he's got an album coming out on December 16th, titled Return of East Atlanta Santa, a follow-up to a mixtape he put out who knows how long ago. And he put out the opening track this past week titled Saint Brick Intro. And, why do people like this guy? Mark, help me out here. Maybe you understand the answer to this.
I kind of don't understand like Gucci Mane. He does, like, at least mostly, stuff like Landry Life, and he does have that trap house music, that trap house music that kind of, that I can sort of get, like, sort of get, but like me, I'm more 50-50 on Gucci, to be honest. Like, I can like this shit sometimes, but sometimes I don't. And like, I'm kind of neutral on this, to be honest. Like, it's basically a Gucci track that sounds like I think it sounds like it's a trap house version of Silent Night, I think, because when I listened to it, I was like, why does it sound like not Jingle Bells? It sounds like either a trap house version of Jingle Bells with Gucci Mane rapping.
Yeah, it does try to sound Christmassy, at least, I guess.
Yeah, and I think like you make another project, and nigga put. I mean, again, you can get real busy, like a lot. Like nigga put out like 3 mixtapes, 3 EPs. And I think the one that I mentioned, the second album coming this year, is like, okay, you must love to work a lot, but
he cranks out music like a pregnant rabbit.
You could take a break, man. I mean, you're about to get married with this fine Daniel. Congratulations for that shit, but you can still get input because you put too much in there. Like, I don't want to hear you anymore for the next year or so.
I would prefer not to hear
that's.
But yeah, that's Gucci. He's of course got something out because he always does. And if you got the trap band in your life and you need a Christmas gift for them, Return of East Atlanta Santa, December 16th. And now for our last 2 songs, and sort of a way of segueing us between talking about songs and news topics. So I believe Alex mentioned last episode that there was Record Store Day, Black Friday shit going on.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, and a little incident went down at like a record store somewhere in Canada. A clerk had accidentally sold I want to say it was a 7-inch record to, a customer, featuring new music from the enigmatic electronic music producer Burial. And Burial's label was not happy about that. They were not happy. But
oh, Canada.
Yeah, but I guess that ultimately turned out not to wholly matter because the project in question, these 2 singles called Young Death and Nightmarket, of course found their way into Bandcamp, with, the physical releases selling out pretty much instantaneously. Now, I'll admit this is my introduction to Burial. I mean, I know electronic music fans talk about him all the time. Shit, Jason DeMarco from Adult Swim is a huge fan as far as I know. That's mainly how I know about him in the first place. And, the songs are, I like them. They're pretty good overall. They're these very kind of atmospheric electronic tunes. Let's see, Young Death in particular has a lot of, well, both of them, but Young Death especially has a lot of stormy elements to it. Like, it kind of feels like he recorded these songs, then recorded himself listening to them in his car in a rainstorm. And there's some, like, pretty cool atmospheric, like, vocals in there. And, funny thing, in Young Death, at one point, I'm pretty sure I heard the laughing of the Skull Kid. Or Majora's Mask. So,
well,
that's a +1 for good use of sampling. And as for Nightmarket, it's a somewhat longer track, sort of in the same vein, although from the actual beat is kind of more synth-wavy, I want to say. Like, it's got that almost kind of ghost or perturbator-ish kind of sound to it. Just with, some more, I guess you would say, ambient elements. But, for my introduction to Burial, I kind of like these songs. I have to check out more of the guy.
Yeah. Same sentiment as you. They're very ambient, they're very moody. I kind of like the kind of record static effects in both of those tracks. I'm not usually so partial to that because it's kind of a cliche that doesn't always work, but in this case, it works. It gives the illusion that you're playing a vinyl even when you're not. That in turn makes me want to get a vinyl copy of my own and see if I can actually track one down.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Anything with you, Mark?
Oh, I'm neutral on this. Yeah, I can definitely vibe with this. It's pretty good.
All right, so we're all clear. Kind of, good music. So that basically covers all the, new songs that came out in the past week. Only 5, sadly, only 5. And now we're going to move on to the news topics, of which there are only really, 4. First up, I'm sure we're all familiar with Skrillex.
Yep.
Bunny hair guy, does a lot of WWubs, one of the biggest electronic music producers out there currently.
Yep, I sure remember him.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Now, I want to pose this question here. Are either of you familiar with Skrillex's career before Skrillex?
Only
really, no.
in name. Only in name.
Okay, so for those of you who are unaware, back before Skrillex was one of the biggest names on the planet, he was just a funny little emo boy by the name of Sonny Moore, who fronted a band called From First to Last. One of those staples of, hot topic emo alt-rock type of stuff. A band that's somehow still around at this point, although they've gone through, so many lineup changes. Shit, at one point Spencer Sotelo from Periphery was their vocalist.
Now that's a fun 6 degrees of separation game right there.
Wow.
Yep. And now it appears that From First to Last jumped back to the studio to record some new material. But here's a little interesting ringer. Some video surfaced online of vocals being recorded, and it looks somewhat legit, so we're going to go with it here. It appears as though it is Skrillex himself doing the vocals. What?
Okay.
Well, the me from 2011 would be ecstatic at this news, but the me in 2016, I'm kind of impartial.
He did vocals once.
Yeah, he was the vocalist. Yeah, he was the vocalist for he was the vocalist from First to Last.
Okay, this is all new to me.
You learn something new every day, Mark.
Yeah.
I'm sure all the mid-2000s emo kids who never really grew out of that phase will be just absolutely delighted if this wholly comes to fruition. Although you kind of have to wonder how, the Skrillex only fans are going to react to this. If it turns out to be 110% legit. Wait, what? He sings? Screams? What is this? Just give me the loud... Just give me call 911 now.
Yeah, wait, where are all the samples? Where are the bass drops? What is all this? My brain can't comprehend all this. What's going on?
I don't like change.
And I'm more like, okay.
Yeah. And while we're on the topic of bands that you thought were cool in 2006, A Day to Remember. That one band that everyone associates with the easycore genre, aka the worst band in that genre. And I know it sounds like, I'm trying to grade on a curve here, but there are some good easycore bands, but A Day to Remember is not one of them. Anyway, ever since 2011, just in case you all need a refresher, they've been tied up in a lawsuit with Victory Records. One of the most notoriously awful record labels when it comes to, royalties, treating your bands with respect and dignity. Even more so than every other label. They take this to an almost cartoonish extreme. Anyway, okay, so A Day to Remember, since 2011, has been tied up in a legal suit with Victory Records, with Victory Records being the ones suing. Because, this is kind of deja vu akin to the Avenged Sevenfold thing from earlier. A supposed, they breach of contract because apparently they didn't release enough albums to fulfill their contract deal before trying to leave.
Yeah.
But, and here's the kicker here, in the past week or so, the lawsuit was settled, and you want to know who won?
Who won, Rob?
A Day to Remember!
Yay! Another victory against money-hungry record labels.
And if you want to know what the rewards they are going to reap from this, financially, they are set to receive $4 million in unpaid royalties from, their album sales, as well as merch sales and digital downloads of their music. $4 million. That's a lot.
Yeah. I sure could use $4 million right now.
It's at least 1 million times more than this kind of band will ever see in their lifetime.
Oh.
Now, of course, the loophole here was that, according to the arguments, made by, various lawyers involved, apparently the release of greatest hits albums and other kinds of compilations apparently counted towards their contractual obligation of albums they were supposed to put out. So, I wonder if this will set a precedent of any kind, maybe one that the Avenged Sevenfold boys can somehow exploit.
You never know.
Yeah, that would be good, but, it doesn't always work out ideally.
Yeah.
But still, that...
Generally, live albums usually don't count towards album deals, right?
Not as far as I know.
Yeah.
But I guess in this case, they made an exception.
Yeah, I know that's been the precedent since, forever.
Yeah. So, congratulations, Data Remember. You have more money than your contemporaries will see in their lifetimes. Spend it well. Or, spend it on booze and hoes. Who cares? Anyway,
we sure don't.
And sticking with metal for a minute, a supergroup that gained, a pretty appreciable amount of attention in the past couple of years is a group called Giraffe Tongue Orchestra, with one of its key members being guitarist Brent Hinds of the band Mastodon, aka one of the greatest metal bands ever. Literally.
I can attest to that.
Fucking Mastodon were part of my high school years, and they have never left me.
Yeah.
Anyway, the group Giraffe Tongue Orchestra was actually set to embark on their first North American tour, and hell, probably their first tour ever. But unfortunately, those dates canceled because Brent Hinds broke his leg.
Ouch.
Yeah,
What is it with rock stars breaking their legs this year? Jeez.
You realize that's just an expression, right, people? It's not meant to be literal.
Dave Grohl.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem like Brent Hinds is going to be the kind of dude who, powers through the pain. He's not going to be like the vocalist of Trap Them and just, sit in a wheelchair as he does his thing.
Wait, the vocalist of who?
Trap Them. Some band you probably don't know.
Oh.
I kind of like
I
it.
thought you said Traps. What?
No. Fuck Trapped. Fucking freebooters. But yeah, unfortunately, it looks like Giraffe Tongue Orchestra might have to... Well, obviously they're going to have to reschedule for another time. So very sad.
Well,
although the weird thing is, according to the source, which was an Instagram post from Brent Hinds showing his broken leg, the reason he broke it in a motorcycle accident. Keep in mind, not like he was riding a motorcycle and, he slipped off at a bad, time. No, apparently he broke his leg trying to start a motorcycle.
Well, one thing to say, why can't they get, a Dave Grohl throne for him?
That's a fairly good point. I'm pretty sure Mastodon counts as royalty enough for a throne.
They definitely should be.
And that throne would have some killer aesthetics.
Yeah.
Aesthetics. So, moving on to our last story for this week. Apparently Yasiin Bey, the man formerly known as Mos Def, has been busy and making some headlines in the past week or so because, he's been stuck in South Africa for a year or two at this point because apparently he claimed that he was able to travel there legally with what he calls a world passport, which sounds less like a legal document and more like an item you pick up in a Katamari Damacy game, but that's irrelevant. Actually, it might be relevant because they wouldn't let him leave. He's been stuck there as he's been, trying to find some way to get out. But thankfully, he was granted, after, I guess, apologizing to the South African government, they allowed him to, leave, with the kicker being that he's not ever allowed to return again.
Wow. Banishment.
Pretty much.
Goodbye, and don't come back in again.
And so, he's just on the verge of his official, quotes, retirement. Why I say quotes, you'll find out in a moment. He scheduled his last few shows for the year, and in the past week, he announced that he's releasing a full album with a project he started with a producer named Ferrari Shepherd, the project being titled December 99th. which, much like February 33rd, does not exist. Apparently, this album is coming out December 9th, exclusively on, guess where, Alex? Guess where?
Let me guess. Tidal.
Tidal!
Which, by the way, has not been bought by Apple yet.
Oh yeah, I forgot most. I mean, yeah, whatever. Yasiin Bey is still with the music.
Yeah. He's
well, like he did shit. Like he did shit for them. Like just got signed.
Seriously, I know probably like at most 3 people who use Tidal. To those 3 people, I have to say, why do you use Tidal? What on there makes it worth it?
Shit, if I know. Maybe it's a hipster thing.
Clearly.
But yeah,
Yes.
It's going to consist of, a bunch of new tracks, including like a minor handful of songs that he's released with this December 99th project, in the past year or... I don't know how long this project's been around, actually, now that I think about it. But yeah, if you're looking forward to hearing some Yasiin Bey, before he, air quotes, retires... Seriously, if he's releasing this one last project, like, right on the cusp of his retiring, I don't think he's retiring.
Well...
unless we're using the same definition of retirement that Hayao Miyazaki does.
Or Jay-Z.
Andre 3000.
So yeah, you're going to have that to look forward to. December 99th. 9th. December doesn't have a 99th. And so that covers all the news songs and the news topics. But we're not done yet. After the break, we got a little bit of a goodie for you. So, what might that goodie be? You'll have to listen and find out, stupid. That's the point. It's okay. I didn't mean that. You're not stupid.
Well, some of you are.
You said it, not me.
But, okay, see you in like 25 seconds. And we are back, fine listeners. Now, you might be wondering what this extra special goodie might be. Although maybe if you read the description down below, we may have spoiled it for you. But, to give you a little bit of extra content for this week, because, the topics and music were slim pickings, we got our first ever Decibel Boost podcast album review spectacular, sort of.
Oh, yeah!
Right. Now, our album that we are going to review for this time, who knows if this will be a regular thing, we may do it on slow weeks. As we mentioned last week, probably one of the bigger anticipated albums of the year, the newest one from all of a sudden big name, pop R&B singer, The Weeknd. His third official studio release dropped over the weekend, titled Starboy, and we are of course going to review it for you, the fine audience. Now, a bit of context for those of you who are unfamiliar, because I'm not going to be presumptuous and assume everyone listening to this just knows everything about The Weeknd. So as I said, The Weeknd, R&B singer from Canada. He released quite a few mixtapes around 2011, 2012. Released his debut album, Kissland, in 2013, which, was certified gold, but at that time he was still kind of under the radar. Like, most of the people who knew him were the pitchfork, noisy, really like in the know type of crowd. But then 2015 comes along and his sophomore effort, Beauty Behind the Madness, just fucking explodes out of nowhere. And all of a sudden The Weeknd becomes like I would argue the second biggest thing that was happening in music that year besides Kendrick Lamar. Seriously, this guy, freaking, The Hills was a #1 hit. Can't Feel My Face became a #1 hit. He had that song on the 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack. This guy was just, not to mention he had so many pop collaborations with all kinds of people, including Ariana Grande. This guy was just everywhere. You could not escape The Weeknd. And now, precisely a year later, we now have his third release, Starboy, which is supposed to be a sort of transitional period. He's defining this as sort of change to his overall identity, perhaps most obvious in the shaving of his trademark palm tree dreadlocks. This is a new Weeknd, and, to be fair, he does actually try to switch things up a little bit. So, you get this impression right away with the album's opener, the title track, which is a collaboration with, good old Daft Punk. Although, weirdly, you wouldn't really be able to tell, apart from the synthetic vocal elements in the chorus, you don't really get the sense that this song in particular has a full Daft Punk tinge to it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're more of a feature producer role, which, to be fair, that's all it needed to be.
Yeah, when I first heard, Daft Punk featuring this song, I should hear some vocal. No, it's they're more of a producer role, at least in this song, because I didn't get that Punk signature, at least the full of it. I got the producer signature, but not the entire experience of that Punk in a Weeknd song.
Yeah, funny thing, Daft Punk actually do production on another track, which is actually the ending track, which I believe is called I Feel It Coming. That one actually does retain a signature Daft Punk vibe to it. In fact, I would almost call it a moodier version of the material from Random Access Memories.
That's what I was just going to say. It felt kind of like an outtake from that album more than anything. It had that same groove, it had that same feel to it.
Yeah, and listen to this. I was Googling this shit when I listened to the first few times. I gotta say, I like this track more than Starboy, to be honest. I got that funky sound I enjoy. That Punk I love the groove we listen to whenever when I hear it, when I play it. This, yeah, I think, I get why it's. I'm guessing. I guess it's not as high. I guess it's not as well played up as Starboy, but I was like, this one's the better Daft Punk feature track on the album. At least
yeah,
me.
It feels like a really great cool down track at the very end. But I will say, Starboy kind of grew on me. It's
yes, same here.
It has a really catchy hook.
I'm a motherfucking Starboy.
Yeah, it's one of those stupidly catchy earworms. And as for that title, Starboy, it's supposed to be a sort of comment on his, newfound sudden level of, star status. Which, as far as switching up the typical Weeknd identity, that's definitely one of the big things you notice right away. Because if you've never listened to a Weeknd song, here's what you need to understand about his persona. He does a lot of songs that are, about sex and romance, but okay, maybe not romance, just sex, because there's a very detached, emotionless cynicism to a typical Weeknd song. He's basically just in it to, get his dick wet. And if you're a lady and you're like, but I thought we were gonna be together for more than one night, his basic response is bitch, you knew it was a snake when you picked me up. What'd you think was gonna happen?
Yeah.
And he's, combines that attitude with, typical, R&B kind of, in fact, he says one of his biggest influences is R. Kelly, and you get that from older Weeknd songs. But he does try to switch that up here, because if you look at the overall lyrics, first off, there's a lot of songs that comment on his newfound level of stardom. One in particular is a song called Reminder, which, addresses the critics and how they sort of respond to his newfound status, which it's kind of an okay-ish song. I can't really say it's all that great, though. I don't remember the beat all that much.
I will say...
And...
Oh, go ahead. I will say the one line that I thought was stupid in Reminder was, I got a hidden chick, she called me, I call her low main. Which I thought that was sort of stupid. I mean, I said... Oh,
you think that's stupid? What about the line where he, says, something about, kids worshiping him? He's like, bitch, I'm not a teen choice.
Oh, yeah, wait, I don't think kids... Yeah, I don't think...
what the hell?
Yeah, I don't think kids want to... I don't think kids worship the Weeknd, to be honest. But, but aside from all that, I just still enjoyed the song pretty much I still enjoyed the song, to be honest.
There's another song in the album that, touches on the same topic. It's one called Sidewalks. And it's more about, sort of his... It's one of those started from the bottom type of songs. He used sidewalks as a kind of metaphor for how he's... he walked the path from being a nobody to just out of nowhere being a somebody. And, it's kind of got... The beat to the song is kind of cool because it's got, like, this... Okay, The Weeknd has this sort of affinity for movie-ish songwriting type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, usually he references, like, the audio, like, iconography of horror films. But with Reminder... Wait, not Reminder. Sidewalks. And another song here called True Colors. Both of them kind of evoke this film noirish type of thing. Like, this one's got, like, one of those, kind of jazzy rap beats to it. Almost kind of like a Kendrick Lamar track. And speaking of, guys, Kendrick, he actually has a guest verse on this song. And it's surprisingly good. It's not as phoned in as his typical, pop collaborations. And, the subject matter kind of fits. Because he was a guy who, kind of, came from the slums and, he became one of, like, becoming the biggest rapper out there right now. So it fits in his wheelhouse.
Right.
We'll say, fun fact, the track was also co-produced by Ali Shaheed Muhammad of A Tribe Called Quest. So that's where you get the whole jazzy rap vibe within the song, which I gotta say, this is, of course, another favorite song of mine on the album.
Yeah. I like the overall feel of Sidewalks. I like Kendrick's verses on there. Not a big fan of the autotune from Weeknd on that track. It just felt a little out of place compared to everything else.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I feel like the autotune could have been removed. Like, it shouldn't
that's weird to me. Like, why would The Weeknd need autotune? I mean, he can keep in pitch for the most part.
I mean,
and he can sing.
I mean, it's not like he's, T-Pain or Future. Oh, wait.
We'll get to him.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. So, also, there's lyrical attempts to sort of subvert typical Weeknd sort of structure, because there are songs here about, boning and fucking, but he tries to approach them from a different perspective. Like, there's one where he's actually trying to... Let me see it in my notes here. There's a song called A Lonely Night, where he tries to sort of apologize to a woman that he sort of led on, which... is kind of a weird take, because The Weeknd apologizes for nothing. Then there's also the track Love to Lay, which lyrically, it takes a typical Weeknd song, about emotionless sex and one-night stands, but it kind of, inverts that, where The Weeknd is the one who actually kind of wants something more, and the woman's the one like, fuck you, man, I'm just looking to get my pussy wet. So you kind of see how he's trying to evolve here a bit. He's trying to somewhat subvert your expectations as far as this kind of subject matter. I'm not sure it really works all the time, just because he's still kind of got like this, I don't know, detached cockiness to him, let's say.
Right, well, it sort of goes into the theme of the album surrounding his rise to stardom, right?
Yeah, I would say so, I believe. Anyway, as far as, that's kind of, what you can expect, like, lyrically. He, trying to subvert your expectations, your mileage will vary. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I want to get back to the production for a minute, because, okay, one of the things I really liked about Beauty Behind the Madness, for some of the faults I thought it had a pretty, broad range of interesting beats. There was some, groovy 80s pop, there was the depressing sort of, R&B type of thing, there was other kinds of stuff, especially, I kind of like the 50 Shades of Grey track there, where, it has like this big band thing going on. And you sort of see a similar amount of beat diversification on this album here. Perhaps the most, the one that stands out the most, and probably my favorite track on the album, is False Alarm, which is, unusually, stomping and high energy for a Weeknd track. And not, high energy in, the same vein as Can't Feel My Face. This one, it's got a beat to it,
Yeah.
And the way he just kind of, wails in fact, something interesting I find about, the production here, when you listen to how he wails in the chorus, it almost kind of sounds like a live recording. Okay, he performed a couple of the songs. He performed Starboy and False Alarm on SNL about a month ago, I want to say. And when I was listening to the footage of that performance, and then I was listening to the album, I had to double check to make sure I wasn't listening to the live recording, because it almost sounds like that, Like they kind of record him singing this on a stage or something.
It is a tried and true technique. I mean, look at Purple Rain, for instance.
That does make sense. I mean, he does like him. The Weeknd does fancy himself a Prince fan.
You come to think of it, it does sound like it would qualify something if you record like from an empty stage and you can hear maybe I can hear a bit of reverb in there. Yeah, I can sense. I can sense that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, False Alarm. That's, as I said, probably my favorite track in the album. That one I can like fuck with particularly hard. There's definitely a lot of synthesizers. There's even like one track I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but it kind of has like this. Shit, I think it's the one after Starboy. It has this synth like intro thing that almost kind of feels like a John Carpenter. So
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's the one. The intro synth. It's this John Carpenter's thing. So while he has changed, he does sort of somewhat keep in touch with like his roots and addiction to horror movie iconography, shall we say?
Right.
Yeah.
Another like the best. While we're on the topic of False Alarm, there's still other songs that are pretty damn catchy. Like my favorite chorus outside of False Alarm would be on the track Love to Lay, because the verses are this kind of ambientish thing, and then when the chorus kicks in, there's this really catchy like in your face synthesizer, and this kind of, it's almost masked by the synths, but you can hear like this funky kind of slap bass ish thing going on. In fact, I wish like the bass was more pronounced in the mix, because it's some groovy shit. Another track that I thought had, pretty good production was a song, A Lonely Night, which, again, pretty moody, but it has this glitzy, glamorous, like, 80s pop vibe. It's almost got, like, the moody version of, like, a current period Bruno Mars track.
To me, it sounds like a modern Michael Jackson song, like, okay, like something you hear off the wall. It has that Michael Jackson vibe to it. Like you feel like that groovy vibe beat that you feel. I can definitely sense that from the song. Also, another one of my favorites, that A Lonely Night.
Yeah, that if there's one thing that's always consistent, it's The Weeknd's love of Michael Jackson influence.
Yeah, the whole album pretty much has a good blend of 80s R&B with current day hip hop and trap beats, and I like that.
Well, I kind of have to, when you bring up trap beats, there's, as much as I like some of the beats on this album, there's a few where, like, they're just not all that memorable. Like, in particular, I'm thinking Attention, Ordinary Life, and there's actually a Diplo-produced track called Nothing Without You, which I'd be hard-pressed to, like, hum. If you asked me to, like, hum the beats for these songs or anything, I could not. For all the good beats, it seems like there's just as many, like, unmemorable ones. And on the subject of the trap thing, there's actually a track here produced by none other than Metro Boomin wants some more, nigga. Yeah, it's a track called 6 Feet Under. And, I know, like, The Weeknd has done this kind of thing before. As we mentioned, he's collaborated with Future once. And again, we'll get to that shortly. Just hold your horses. But just hearing him like sing over this kind of beat, it just like doesn't work for me. There's too much of a clash there. Because again, any moment, I just keep expecting to hear something like I fuck bitches. I sound like I'm on lean.
And again, we'll get to that in a moment.
Actually, we'll get to it right now, because there's another song on this album that, while I don't think it was produced by Metro Boomin, it has that same kind of vibe to it. It's a song called All I Know. And this one actually has a full guest verse from, the lean addicted rapper himself.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
I want to recite some lyrics here. I have them in my notes, and this is probably going to make my tongue hurt. And my brain. Have you fucked a bitch this pretty? Hit her on the first night and went and bought titties? Have you fucked a bitch this pretty? Hit her on the first night and went and bought titties? Nigga always sneak dissing. We gon' continue fucking they bitches. I ain't just fucking that bitch. I've been all way up making love to that bitch. I can feel the sores developing, like, in my tongue as I say that. Just
why all the auto-tune?
This is a future thing.
Yeah,
we were talking about this earlier. Alex actually isn't wholly familiar with Future, but unfortunately, me and Mark are. So we know the auto-tune is a thing with him.
You're not singing. You're rapping. You don't need auto-tune for it. You're not T-Pain. Turn that off.
I mean, the thing is, like, from what I've heard from interviews, is like the whole auto-tune drowsy thing is like he's trying to personify the feeling of being addicted to what the kids call lean, which is like some mixture of like Sprite and cough syrup. But what? Just fuck Future.
That's a big lean.
That is the low point of the album for me right there. It's just, weak verses, too much auto-tune.
Kind of forgot why I didn't really care for that track. I didn't care for All I Know at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there is, like... speaking of the lyrics on that album, I've noticed, like, for some reason, the lyrics on the album as a whole feel so much more repetitive than anything else on the past two Weeknd albums. Like, I don't know if if it's because he's trying to remodel himself into a more conventional pop star, but like if you listen to his past releases, the choruses at least sort of try. I can't say I ever really liked his persona, but at least there's like, interesting like vocal phrasings and, rhyme schemes and all that. But here it's just like, okay, you have songs like Lonely Night, Attention, Nothing Without You, which repeat, words in the chorus just ad fucking nauseum.
This is where I had to jump in, because this album is 18 tracks long. It is nearly 70 minutes. There's some filler in there that could just easily be cut out.
That is, for me, the absolute... If there is one huge failing of this album, it's the padding. Because I don't get why he needs to have his albums be as long as they are. Okay, Kissland was 10 tracks, 55 minutes, and at least two of the tracks were like 7.5 minutes. Beauty Behind the Madness was like an hour and 5 minutes, I want to say, and that was 14 tracks. Granted, some of the songs were still a little over long, but you can feel the song length condensing. However, as Alex said, this is the Weeknd's probably longest studio album to date, but 18 tracks, man. There is so much filler here, man.
Does anyone really care about an interlude with Lana Del Rey?
Not really, no.
At all?
I don't care. I mean,
I don't even know who Lana Del Rey is.
That's all.
We'll say this, as much as I can say I enjoy some of this album. The filler exists, and there shouldn't be 18 songs in there. And I feel like you could have cut some songs off. Like, I would just cut the one after Reminder. I don't know the fucking name of that song, Rockin' or something. Like, I feel you can cut that off. I kind of don't care. It's like some 90s sound shit that might be alright, and maybe a few times, but I won't remember it.
Yeah, I mean, like Rockin's like, it's got an okay beat, but like, and while it is one of the catchy one, it's very 90s with like its bleeps and blips and like, the shuffling drum beat, but it's one that you could cut out. In fact, I'm trying to remember how I cut it down in my head. I'm thinking in my head, I don't know, I'm trying to remember which track specifically, but you could probably cut this down to like 12 tracks. 13 at the most.
Yeah, say about that. About 13 or 14, or 13, fuck. As far as I know.
So, for all the sort of like leaps he's trying to make as far as how he writes his lyrics and, the productions of his songs, it still feels like there's kind of... He's held back by this need for lengthiness. Remember, man, I believe it was... I don't know who said this. Someone's probably going to correct me, but whoever said brevity is the soul of wit, you should probably take that to heart.
Yep, I would.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, there's one other thing I kind of wanted to make note of. I noticed that as far as his vocal performance, he keeps it in the typical, range of his, which, very high, and especially sometimes with obvious tinges of Michael Jackson. Like, I know we've been saying, like, he likes Michael Jackson a lot, but we need to make that clear that's very true, especially if you hear his super high vocals. Like, he definitely wails like the king of pop. Yeah. But one thing I noticed is, like, there's a few songs, like, on this album where he tries to delve into what, relatively speaking, would be considered low range. Again, within the context of the Weeknd. And it's somewhat interesting. Again, I can see that the main thing I want to, like, the overall sort of too long didn't read. I can see how he's trying to grow here from his position as niche R&B curiosity to mainstream fixture. He's trying to sort of adapt to being more mainstream while still trying to hold on to certain, segments of pre-haircut The Weeknd with his production and, remaining to certain lyrical topics. And, the vocals overall. But there's still some stuff that needs work here. Overall, I'd say the album is okay. Like, going into the week, because I was only familiar with the Weeknd's singles, and, some of them rubbed me the wrong way, but going through his discography, and going through Starboy in particular, I can see almost where he might be great. Like, with Starboy, he's on the cusp of, like, true greatness, but he just needs to learn to, well, first off, he needs to pick some better collaborators.
Not Future. Not Lana Del Rey.
Yeah, so, Kendrick, good collaborator, maybe pick some more that are as good as him. And he just needs to tone down the fucking filler, man. Like, geez, let me put it like this. Even Dream Theater would say you're being a bit excessive.
That is true, and they did put out a 34-track, 2.5-hour concept album this year.
Indeed. But overall, I guess I would have to, if I had to assign a numerical score here, I guess I'm feeling a 5, kind of between a 5 and a 6 here. With, the big strengths going to a lot of the songs that have really, really good production, but he just needs to, like, again, the fillers. Damn, dude. Why do you need to write this many songs? What are you, Gucci?
Yeah, my sentiment on the album is probably the same as yours. It's okay, and that's pretty much how I feel about The Weeknd in general. He's okay. That's how I think of him. I think of him as an okay artist with some high spots here and there.
Okay, Mark, any final thoughts?
Maybe I might I think I like this, well, I like it a slight more than y'all do, but mainly because, like, I went back to The Weeknd's, like, first two mixtapes albums, like, thought, okay, he's an interesting R&B artist that I actually want to listen to, because I don't find many good R&B artists nowadays. Like, he's okay, like, on a level he's serviceable, like, I like some of his shit, but with Starboy, Starboy, like, first of all, there's good production, which I would dig a lot. Lyrics are, make those things as always, but with some slight changes. But yeah, the filler, that sort of fucked it up for me. And not to mention, I didn't like the two Future songs in there that or 60, well, all you are 16 under, which I didn't even know he was on that song until I read that. Oh, listen to vocals. Yeah, Wikipedia, that bitch. And also only enough, I found out Sam Smith did additional vocals for Sidewalks. I didn't even know that was him, or was it? Shit, I don't know. I know he threw something better than that other fucking song he did. Anyway, yeah, this album I think is okay. I will listen to some of the songs, but not all of them. I would give it a high 6 to a low 7.
Mark, I think I should have told you this. We don't do numbers or scales here.
Wait, then
we just tell people.
Wait, what?
Yeah, we don't do, rank numbers or scales out of so-and-so, because we're trying to be away from all that. That's passé to all of us.
I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I have to worm myself out of that instinct. Now I think about it, yeah, I kind of forgot we discussed that in the main Surreal chat.
I know that shit.
Yeah.
My apologies. It slipped my mind too. Don't worry, Mark. We're both guilty here.
Yeah. So now, pretty much what we do is we tell people how they should get it, whether they should buy it or stream it or rent it or just pass on it or anything like that. Because that's what's
that
most
was actually
important.
like now. I was trying to think of like how to discuss like album raids and stuff, and in my head I was thinking like buy it, stream it, fuck it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This I'd say is stream it. Some of you out there might get more out of it than we do, in which case you might be tempted to buy it. I don't know. I can't say I'd spend money on this though. I could just stream the tracks that I do like and then just leave it at that.
There you go.
Yeah, I get a stream as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, we hope you enjoyed our first ever attempt at an album review here in this podcast. We're aware it was very, rambly, although I did try to keep it organized. I took more notes on this than I ever took notes for anything else in my life, including college tests.
And remember, we don't use scripts because scripts are for losers.
I don't use one at all.
Yeah. And to wrap up this podcast, now, just to let you know, we're probably going to be taking a break next week because now that we're just about coming up on December, we're going to have to take some time to work through some best of the year stuff. So we're going to take next week off so we can take care of that, listen to all the albums, decide what are the tough cuts, have all this stuff organized. So for the new album releases, we're going to leave you with the album releases for both this Friday, December 2nd, and next Friday, December 9th. Because we're not going to be here, next week.
Give you a break.
So, hey, there's no break for you, man. You got to work on your album list.
I've been working on that.
Alex, have you?
Yes, I work on everything.
No, I was talking to Alex.
Oh, what about me?
Are you working on your list?
Well, it's going to be less of best of and more of my personal favorite albums of the year.
Lemming Animals as Leaders, Periphery, Dream Theater.
Metallica.
I think that's mine.
And there may be some surprises. You never know.
So, anyway, enough of those shenanigans. Let's get into the new album releases. So, for Friday, December 2nd, 2016, we have, of course, the newest album from Childish Gambino, titled Awaken My Love, and we get to see how his stint as an R&B, soul singer pans out. We have the newest release from electronic music producer deadmau5, titled W Drive 2016 album, and a new album from piano player / singer John Legend, titled Darkness and Light. I didn't even know he was coming out with a new album.
Me either.
And now, for the new album releases for next Friday, December 9th, 2016. We have the album Fireplace, The Not The Other Side, the debut solo album of Haji. Haji Beats from Odd Future.
Oh shit, man.
Yeah. Remember when they were a thing?
Yeah.
I do. I had the Odd Future tape, Volume 2. I still bump it regularly. And on the subject of rap, we of course have the newest album from Tech 9 titled The Storm. Oh, wait, sorry, I forgot. Tech 9!
There you go.
And last but not least, the newest album from metalcore pioneers Zhao titled The Well-Intentioned Virus. And so that'll do it for this week's episode of the Decibel Boost podcast. Of course, this is the part where we like to, give out our social media shit. This is where we clear house, sign off, get out of here. So, Alex, where can they find you on the internets?
I am found on the internet, on Twitter, at Aura of Azure, and that's just about it. Because that's the only place worth a damn.
Mark, where can they find you?
On Twitter, at Mac2Hypermedia. Also on my own site, the Mind the Hybrid one, where I've been doing a lot of lists for this month. Whether it be music, movies, anime. I'm doing a lot of lists.
It's going to be list month for him.
And story month. Well,
yep.
Yeah, that too.
As for me, you can find me on Twitter, AskFM, and Instagram at Rob Barracuda. You can also find me on YouTube, Rob Barracuda being the name of my channel, where you're likely listening to this podcast. While you're there, be sure to hit subscribe as well as the bell icon so you can be notified whenever new episodes of the podcast go up. And of course, this is the official music podcast of Surreal Resolution, which you can follow on Twitter at Surreal Rezo, and visit the actual website at www.surrealresolution.com, and find our podcast on the subdomain decibelboost.surrealresolution.com. You can go there, you can find the archives of our previous episodes, and, stick around to see the rest of the site. We have, our gaming podcast, The Training Stage, where our friends Tyler, Joey, and John comment on all the fun goings-on in the video games industry. In fact, they're finally starting to catch up. I think they released a new episode last week, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You can also check out various written articles. Currently, most of the ones we have are anime, weekly write-ups of shows such as Nanbaka, Drifters, Yuri on Ice, which I'm an episode behind on, so we need to catch up.
Yeah, you'll be seeing some more recaps of those, hopefully in the coming days. Hopefully you'll be seeing them by now, because I'm finally going to have some time to work on getting those all caught up.
Yeah, we all have to catch up. Although, with December, you can probably expect some movie reviews from us, to broaden out the written content. Mm-hmm. In fact, I can tell you I've got 2 coming up. One for a movie I'm kind of looking forward to, the other not so much. You'll have to wait to see what those are. And so while you're on the site, also make sure to jump into the Discord chat that we have set up, where you can talk with, other people who are on the site, whichever 2 or 3 are there, as well as chat with us, the contributors and site runners, about everything from movies to anime, video games, music, memes of the very dank variety. Who doesn't love their dank memes? And, of course, as always, shout out to the producer, Mr. E, for graciously letting me use this music for this podcast. As always, thank you for listening, and until next time, sayonara, Fidel. Come mierda, puta.
俺は、おちんちんが大好きなんだよ。
Bye, Felicia.